You're standing in front of your tribe, maybe 40 people, maybe 60. Everyone you have ever known in your entire life is sitting in a circle around a fire, and for some reason, tonight, all of them are looking directly at you. Your hands are sweating, your heart is slamming against your ribs like it's trying to escape the situation without you. Your mouth has gone completely dry, and you haven't even said anything yet. This is stage fright, and you'd think, given that public speaking barely existed 50,000 years ago, that this reaction would make no sense at all. There were no stages. Nobody was pitching a business plan around the campfire. So why does your body still react like this is a life or death emergency? The answer is stranger, older, and considerably more useful than you'd expect. Stage fright might not be a flaw in your brain at all. It might be one of the smartest things your brain has ever done. Here's what actually happens in your body. Your amygdala, the almond-shaped structure that specializes in detecting threats, fires off a full-body alarm. That triggers your HPA axis, flooding your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline, prepping you for fight, flight, or freeze. And here's the part that should stop you cold. Psychologist Clemens Kirschbaum developed a lab protocol called the Trier Social Stress Test, specifically to measure how people respond to being watched and judged while performing a task. It found that social evaluation alone can trigger a bigger cortisol spike than many physical threats do. Being looked at and judged by other humans can stress your body out more than actual danger. Your brain is treating an audience like a predator. That should sound insane. It's not, because for most of human history, being watched and judged by your group wasn't a metaphor. It could genuinely kill you. Humans didn't survive the last few 100,000 years by being the strongest species around. We had no claws, no fangs, and a single human alone against a predator was lunch. What we had was each other. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar's social brain hypothesis argues that human brains grew as large as they did specifically to manage relationships, tracking roughly 150 stable social connections, now known as Dunbar's number. Our memory, our emotional processing, our ability to read faces, all of it evolved primarily to manage our standing within a group. Not to hunt, not to build, to belong. And belonging was not optional. There was no moving to a new city if things went badly. If your band decided you were a burden or a threat, they could simply stop sharing food with you, stop defending you, stop including you. A lone human cut off from the group in a hostile prehistoric environment was looking at a death sentence. No group meant no shared food during famine, no help during injury, no warning system for predators. Ostracism wasn't awkward. It was one of the most dangerous events that could happen to you. This is where stage fright starts making sense. Psychologist Mark Leary developed sociometer theory, the idea that self-esteem functions as an internal gauge, constantly monitoring how included or excluded you are from your group. Your anxiety and self-consciousness aren't random noise. They're readouts from a system built to track your social survival in real time. That flush of nerves walking into a crowded room is your sociometer detecting risk to your reputation, your standing, and on some deep level, your continued membership in the group that keeps you alive. It gets more physical than you'd expect. In 2003, psychologists Naomi Eisenberger and Matthew Lieberman ran a study using a rigged online game called Cyberball, where participants were gradually frozen out by other players. Using fMRI scans, they found that social exclusion activated the anterior cingulate cortex, the same brain region that activates during physical pain. Being excluded by a group doesn't just feel bad, your brain processes it with the same machinery it uses for a broken bone. So picture yourself back at that fire 50,000 years ago. Every person who could feed you, defend you, or exile you is suddenly staring at you at once. Of course, your body panics. It's running the single most important threat calculation your ancestors ever had to make at maximum speed with the highest possible stakes. Now let's talk about the freeze, because stage fright isn't just sweating, it's the moment your mind goes blank and your body locks up. Fear isn't just fight or flight. Pathologists have long documented a third response, tonic immobility or freezing. Predators are visually tuned to detect motion, so an animal that goes perfectly still can sometimes avoid triggering an attack entirely. Evolutionary psychiatrist Randolph Ness's work on anxiety as an evolved defense system suggests this same ancient circuitry can activate under intense social threat in humans. When you freeze on stage and forget every word, you may be running the same subroutine a rabbit runs when a hawk's shadow crosses the field. Except the hawk is 40 pairs of human eyes. Now, a dose of honesty here, because this is where a lot of pop science quietly cheats. We cannot excavate an emotion. There's no fossil of fear. What we have is convergence. Brain imaging showing social threat and physical threat overlap in the nervous system. Hormone studies showing social evaluation spikes cortisol as much as physical danger. Anthropological evidence of how lethal ostracism actually was in small group societies, and the fact that public speaking anxiety, glossophobia, consistently ranks among the most reported fears across wildly different, historically unconnected cultures. When something shows up that consistently across that many unrelated populations, it stops looking like a cultural quirk and starts looking like shared biology. Not proof in a courtroom sense, but a very strong signal. There's one more thread worth pulling, and it's the strangest one. Charles Darwin, in his 1872 book on the expression of emotions, called Blushing the most peculiar and most human of all expressions. Blushing serves no obvious physical survival function. It does the opposite, broadcasting your embarrassment to everyone around you at the exact moment you'd want to hide it. Darwin's theory was that blushing works precisely because it's involuntary. You can't fake it, and you can't suppress it on command, which makes it an honest signal. In a small tribal society running on trust and reputation, an automatic, unfakeable admission of "I know I made a social error" may have actually been valuable. It told the group you cared about their judgment, which told them you were safe to keep around. So that horrible heat in your face when you freeze in front of people isn't a bug. It's a signal your ancestors may have needed to survive being watched by people with life or death power over them. Let's bring this together. Stage fright is your amygdala treating an audience like a predator because group judgment genuinely used to end in death. It's your HPA axis flooding your body with chemicals your ancestors needed to survive social catastrophe. It's an ancient freeze response borrowed from prey animals, trying to make you invisible to a threat that isn't a lion. It's a room full of faces, and it's topped off with an involuntary blush your ancestors may have needed to survive scrutiny from tribes who controlled what happened to them next. Every uncomfortable symptom lines up with a survival system that used to be one of the most important things your body ever did. Here's the uncomfortable part. That system never updated. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference between a hostile tribe deciding your fate around a fire and a comment section deciding whether your video was good. It doesn't know the difference between 40 hunter-gatherers who could exile you and 40 strangers who'll forget your name in 10 minutes. Every job interview, every wedding speech, every presentation, every video you've ever posted gets processed by threat detection software built for a world where public failure could genuinely get you killed. So the next time your heart pounds before you speak in front of a group, understand what's actually happening. That is not weakness. That is 50,000 years of survival instinct trying to protect you from a threat that, for almost the entirety of human history, was completely real. The stage changed. The stakes changed. Your nervous system never got the memo. So here's the question worth sitting with. If your body still reacts to being watched as if your survival depends on it, how much of what we call modern anxiety is really just ancient wiring running in a world it was never built for?